Atlanta Falcons, Atlanta Hawks, Atlanta Braves. Which one is the funnest to
Oh
work
man,
with?
this is being recorded, huh? Everybody's gonna hear this. All my other teams, all my other teams are gonna hear this. I love all my teams; they're all fun, but certainly football is the busiest.
I'll answer it
Awesome.
for you. You like the Braves not the most because you got an actual championship ring. It's okay.
Oh, man.
You get
Congrats.
it, yeah,
Listen.
yeah.
Stack my money up like Legos. Bet me when I say so. Pull up in the spotlight. Pull up.
So I got a question, right? When you start thinking about the advancement of both technological and medical advancements, right? Like, how are athletes now in terms of like being able to upkeep their bodies versus, when you first came into the industry? Like, I would imagine, kids now, they're coming in probably are going to be able to survive obviously new rule change, especially in a football game. But would you say like, medical devices and, technological advances and things of that sort are now allowing athletes to be able to stick around and play a lot longer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely think so. I mean, certainly over a short period of time, but definitely over, a long period of time. I think, think back to, Steve Barkowski days for the Falcons, 75 to 85. I mean, totally different ball game, totally different NFL versus what we have now. But, you know, just the way that we understand injury prevention, the way that we understand taking care of athletes, I think the combination of both those two things are definitely improving longevity and health of players, but also bringing players into the league who are healthier, because their younger years of playing football, they're maybe not getting as banged up, head injuries, they're maybe not, overtraining, and, they have a better understanding of how to be proactive and take care of their bodies. And colleges understand that. So they get to the collegiate level, they understand that too. And so it's really, there's like a downstream effect, that I do think allows athletes to come into the professional arena in better condition, better shape, better health, which then once they get access to what they have access to in the professional world, that, yeah, I mean, all the technology that exists, all the advancements in hands-on treatment and modalities that we have, and yeah, I definitely think there's a point to that it does probably improve their health of their career.
I'm a fan, right? I'm a fan first. You're a medical, you're gonna have a medical professional view, right? But one thing I want you to help me is like when most people think about football, it's like, oh man, the league is getting soft, right? Oh, you can't hit a guy coming across the middle, defenseless player. What do you mean? Like, and I loved it because Brady even said, he was like, dude, at the end of the day, we're bailing out quarterbacks for making a bad pass across the middle, right? Like, that's a good hit. They shouldn't throw the flag. And so I'm one of those people that kind of, I'm a Chicago guy, 85 Bears is real grimy type of football. But as an actual medical professional, would you say that the new rule changes are actually better for the league?
Yes, they. I mean, most definitely, right? I mean, look, we're learning a lot about CTE, and we're learning about guys, things that are happening to them later in their careers, or their ability to support their family, later in their careers, or into their next chapter of their lives. And so understanding what they put their bodies through to achieve their dream and support their family and themselves is crazy. So to do whatever we can from a medical professional standpoint to mitigate, lessen risk of severe long-term injury that could, debilitate or negatively affect their ability to provide in their second life or their second career or whatever, beyond football, I think is of utmost importance, and obviously you don't want to take away from the competitive nature and the physical nature of the game, what it's born on. But I do think that, helping guys understand, you know, safer tackling techniques and protecting guys from, you know, quote unquote cheap shots and things like that that could cause major injuries. I do think it's an important aspect of the game, medically, but also as a fan.
All right, bet. You making me a believer. You're making me a believer for sure.
I just think I'm a chime in on that because I think it's definitely it makes it safe. I just think that what they got to do with the rules is they got to find ways to take out the hypocrisy in the rules. Meaning, like, as a defensive player, I'm more likely to get money taken out of my pocket just as a result of me trying to do my job at a high level. There's guys who I've seen fined in the preseason $20,000, $30,000 for a hit, undrafted free agents when it's like, I'm just trying to like I'm literally just trying to survive this training camp and, and stick around here. Like I'm not a malicious human being. And it's a lot of money. But on the defensive side, like it's clear a lot of times because you're hitting a wide receiver, you're hitting somebody in the open field, but then also as a defensive player, there are times where you're getting hit and you're defenseless, where you get, you know, for example, there's times you're coming off the edge, and we got one of the best blocking running backs in the league, Mike Davis, and I've seen him take some dudes off of their feet, some 6'6", 290-pound dudes off of their feet because you're trying to go against this tackle, and then Mike Davis comes and boom, and you don't see it. You can't prepare for it, right? And I want Mike to keep your money. Keep your money, Mike. I don't think you should fine Mike, but my body is important too. Like I want my body to work when I'm older as well. Or you got these guys who come across the line of scrimmage from the other side and they come and just dive right for your knees, you know? And so I just think that it's, for me as a defensive player, selfishly, and also a financial educator, right? One, I want to see guys keep money in their pocket, and then two, I also want to see the protection be shown on both sides of the ball because I think that it's heavily favored towards the offense, which I know it's sexy and they score all the points and stuff.
Yeah, no, Cope, I think those are all good points. I mean, it is, there are aspects of, the rules and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to protect certain, I mean, they are biased towards certain positions. I mean, no doubt. And, it's easier to watch. It's easier for, as you know, it's easier for a referee or whomever to be able to, or the TV camera to see a guy who's standing still in the pocket, see every little detail of how he's hit or how he's contacted during the game versus, you know, the linebacker who's running out to cover somebody or the D lineman who's taken on two blocks. I mean, like all those other things that are happening, the 21 other players besides the quarterback. I mean, yeah, I mean, you make a good point that they got to continue to evolve and look at how they're going to make it a little more fair across and a little more, unbiased or, um, you know, consistent, I guess, amongst all the positions.
I want to kind of, well, there's two things I want to do, but first I want to circle back a little bit to you talked about when you became a faculty member, you were able to negotiate your role at Emory, I believe at the time is what you said, right? Uh, for us as players, typically for the most part, we have agents that help us negotiate these things, right? And a lot of times, Ross and I have talked about it. A lot of times in business and in life, some of these conversations you're having for the very first time, so you don't know what's a good price for yourself. You don't know what's too high. You don't know what's undervalued, right? So when you went through that first negotiation, right? Was there anybody in your corner that helped you or guided you, or do the doctors have agents as well? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, doctors don't have agents for the most part. There are a handful of doctors, believe it or not, in the United States who do have agents. For and some of these names, but when it comes to like, yeah, your salary or how you get paid as a doctor, getting that first job, getting that first contract, that how much they're going to pay you. I mean, a lot of that you have no real teaching in that. Nobody really um, tells you definitively what to expect or what your value is or how much you should get paid. There's some generalities based off of what type of job you're taking, what size city you're working in, what area of the country you're working in, what how old you are, like how many years of practice you've been in. So some of those kind of generalities kind of are out there for people to know, quote unquote, what the value is of you. But when you first start working, like for me, for example, when I first started working at Emory, I mean, I had to just rely on essentially, mentors, people who had trained me, and older orthopedic surgeons who I trusted, who trained me to kind of tell me, what my value is and what I should expect to make when I first start practicing. Um, but you know, sometimes they don't know. I mean, if they've been in practice for 20 years, they may not know what the current up to date market value is for a brand new surgeon or whatever. So that's hard. I mean, that's a hard first conversation, and you kind of just, you get your job offer, and you're ecstatic to get a job offer in a practice that you want to be in, a city that you want to be in, a system that you want to work in, and you kind of just, honestly, you take what they kind of give you. You maybe negotiate a little bit more than what they give you, but it's hard to kind of really be able to aggressively negotiate probably what you feel your value is or what your value is, because honestly, you probably don't know, and most people don't know what their value is.
I was gonna say, are most contracts like, how long are most contracts? I know it's probably different. It's probably
Yeah,
different for different roles, but
yeah, different for different roles. But I mean, typically when you first come into practice, the way doctors make money for the most part is, seeing patients, doing surgeries, providing, business to the healthcare system that you work in. And so whether that's through like MRIs, and I mean, whatever, however, there's different ways that different practices make money. But yeah, when you first start, because you don't have a reputation necessarily, you don't have this like stockpiled group of patients who have been seeing you for years and years and years and years, you don't bring a lot to the place that you're going to work at as far as just business. It's not like you're bringing a bunch of business. Like if you merge, like two businesses merge together, hey, we're taking all of their business on and they're coming under our name. But when you're first a brand new doctor, you really don't bring anything like that other than your skill set and your potential. And so they kind of, pay you just a kind of a base salary that's honestly usually more than what you would actually make if you were just getting paid off of how much work you were doing. Um, but they have to kind of do that because it's like your market value and for what your specialty is and for what you're what we're doing, and then that usually goes on for a couple years. So and then after around your third year of practice, you're kind of then hopefully busy enough and starting to gain some traction as a reputable doctor or whatever, and people are coming to see you, and you're able to kind of just generate business as any other entity would, and you can kind of just make your money based off of how busy you are or how much you want to work, type of thing.
So, Doc, in terms of doctors getting paid, would you say like the highest margin business is actually doing surgeries?
Yeah. So just in like the general, like what we do day to day, yes. Because doctors are mostly paid. 99% of doctors are paid just based off insurance reimbursements, right? So whatever the insurance companies reimburse to the system, right? Now there are some doctors out there and some specialties, some fields, some cities that are cash. They don't take insurance. You just pay them cash for whatever they do, and so that's more concierge type medicine. And there's some of that in orthopedics, but not a ton. Um, so yeah, so yes, just kind of in the day to day work of what we do, the most kind of, yeah, highest margin thing that you would do from a financial standpoint is surgical cases as a surgeon. But a lot of practices, and Emory is an academic center, so we're not like this, but a lot of medical practices or private practices that are run truly more like businesses, they have, you know, business investments in whatever it may be, real estate or MRI machines or they surgery centers, so they have, shared revenue methods by which they can, you know, make more kind of passive income off of like the rest of their partners or their groups being busy, and the whole business as itself being a busier business, if that makes sense.
now we talking my language. We throwing in real estate in here. So all right, so we got to dive into this some more because this is what
Yeah.
I'm interested in, right? This you got. So as a doctor, there's like what we've grown up and people have always said wealthy people try to have 6 to 7 streams of income. It sounds like being a doctor, you're within your single profession, you've have the ability to have multiple legs of income. So there might be a certain price that you're getting per every patient that you see. There might be and you just stop me when I'm wrong. You might be another price that you get for every time you order an X-ray, and every time you order an MRI, and then every time there's a surgery done, right? And then now it sounds like there's some private practices as well, or some staffs where, um, again, they're looping in a real estate arm, another passive income stream. Maybe they own the building and then they lease out, the bottom floor might have a pharmacy there, it might have a dentist there, it might have a, a rehab facility there. And so they're making a bunch of revenue off the entire business and the entire ecosystem as a whole. Can you talk about, so like I see, for example, there are some doctors where you walk into the doctor's office and it might say, Hammond and Friends, or Hammond and McDonald, right? That's Ross's last name. He thinks he's, the inventor of the Big Mac, but I know he wasn't. You got Hammond and McDonald, right? And you guys have your private practice and you guys have created your income streams through there, versus Emory University, for example, or CHOP, Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania. Um, is there, would you say that there are pros and cons? I'm sure there are pros and cons to each side of the coin. Creating and starting your own private practice versus sticking with, I don't even know what you call it, a medical provider or a hospital. But can you kind of talk about some of the pros and cons?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you have the reputation right now. If you wanted to, you could build your own institute.
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, the pros and cons are like anything else, risk versus, security. So with, with practicing for an academic center or a hospital and being basically an employee, there's a little more security because you're gonna, always be part of a successful hospital system or healthcare system or university system that, you know, is unlikely to fail, right? And so there's going to be that level of security there, but there may be more regulations or more limitations on the ability to have a lot of, these other, avenues by which you can make these additional, income streams or revenue streams. And so, whereas the flip side of that, obviously if you do your own thing, or you buy your own building, or you buy your own MRI, or, these things that you own, if you're the owner of it, or if you have partners who buy in shares and then they're owning it with you, I mean, you certainly are going to have additional, revenue streams that will, if you're successful and you have, continue to build and have a successful business, you're going to make, ultimately make more money through those additional revenue streams and ancillary type items. But there's just a little more risk involved with that because, you know, the real estate taxes could go up, or, you could have a bunch of, maintenance issues, or your building could get, fall down. I mean, there's just, obviously you're insured and all these things, but, there's just a little more unknown. And then, you take time off, or your partners take time off, or somebody gets sick, or somebody decides to quit and leave. And now the business is not running as efficiently, or whatever. Then, like any other business, you're going to have some downstream effect from that. So, that's where a little more of the risk comes in with that type of private practice setting. But, a lot of people have figured these things out over the years. And so most private practice groups are successful and have figured this out and do it the right way. But, it's still trying to do something on your own in modern day medicine is difficult. Just with insurance companies and a lot of regulations that are out there, and the competitive aspect of medicine, and especially in big cities. So, but, those are kind of some of the generalities between the two types of, the healthcare business models.
I got a couple more. These are some layup questions right here, and then Ross, if you got anything else, we can dive into it. But definitely want to be respectful of your time. So Atlanta Falcons, Atlanta Hawks, Atlanta Braves. First question. Which one is the funnest to work with? Putting you on the spot
Oh
here.
man, oh man.
Which
This is
sport?
being
I don't even get like
this be
these are the
recorded.
real things.
This be recorded. I don't know if everybody's gonna hear this. All my other teams, all my other teams are gonna hear this. I love all my teams. They're all fun. I love. I mean, you know, from as an orthopedic surgeon, and you know, with my skill set and my love and my passion, what I'm good at. I mean, football has the most injuries, right? So the most things happen in football, and so I have the most to do and the most to kind of give back. So I'm the busiest in football with my skill set. So, you know, I think that's one way to look at it as far as, you know, that's the sport where I'm doing the most and I'm the busiest. And so my mind and my, you know, what I'm good at and, you know, is, but, you know, basketball and baseball, even though they're not having like acute injuries, like multiple injuries every game or every practice or every, you know, but the seasons are longer. There's more kind of like long-term overuse type injuries in both of those sports, and so the injuries are different. So there's still a cerebral like aspect to managing those athletes, and you know, and helping them in each of those two sports as well. So I mean, I know that I'm copping out a little bit because I don't want to say that I like one more than other, and I truly don't. But there's differences in each, but that's certainly football is the busiest and has
In
the
all
most
of them.
going on, and so like my skill set, I'm you know doing more on a regular basis in that sport.
I'll answer it
Awesome.
for you. You like the Braves not the most because you got an actual championship ring. It's okay.
Oh man,
You get
Congrats.
it,
listen.
yeah.
The and
That's
then
legit.
my final question: when you have any Chicago team on the schedule, do you automatically chalk it up as a win? Because just historically, that city is just known for huh? Oh, I'm sorry. Is this being recorded? My
For
bad,
being a
Ross.
sports powerhouse, I'm here still. For being a sports powerhouse, yeah, I helped finish that sentence for you.
Yeah, I think
Chicago gave us Jordan, so I'm good with Chicago.
There we go.
touche, touche.
There we go.
Well, yeah, Doc, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you shedding some light on just the business. And one of the things that I'm personally going to take from the conversation, I think, you know, we can all take from the conversation as well, besides a number of things, is it, it was extremely powerful how you talked about how intentional you were about your decision making in terms of creating the life you want. Like you said, hey, I wanted, if in order to be attractive to a college team or a professional team one day, I need to route my education more towards an academic institution, academic medical institution, right? And I think that that's something that, you know, I challenge young people and I challenge people in general is, right, just to try to be extremely intentional in your decisions. I think sometimes we might not exactly know where our end goal or end destination is. However, if we know our passions and we know some of the things that we're actually interested in, then okay, let's put in some research, put in some time and effort into figuring out what I need to do to make sure my resume is built strong enough to be attractive for those types of opportunities, and also so that I'm learning the information to be successful in those types of opportunities. So for me, like I said, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, there's you know sometimes like you know, Cope, there's your goal is 6 steps away, but if you don't take step one or step two in the appropriate order, and you don't take those actual steps, you can't get to step six possibly. You know, so just planning for the smart and efficient way to get to the goal that you want to go to, realizing that that goal may take additional steps thereafter, but you got to get on that correct path early on. Otherwise, you just may never get to that end goal.
Mm, say no more. Well, I
Doc, your
appreciate you.
story is
Thank you
very
so much for taking the
inspirational.
time.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate y'all
Go ahead,
having me. It's
Ross. You can
awesome.
wrap us.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, Doc, your story was extremely inspirational, man. Congratulations to being, at the pivotal point of your career, being able to be a team doc for all of Atlanta's teams at this rate, right? That's amazing. But this was another episode of Money Music Culture. It's your boy Ross Mack.
It's your boy Brandon Copeland, aka Professor Cope.
And we had the amazing Dr. Hammond, and we need y'all to do us a favor, man. Press that like, press that subscribe, and also share this with some of your family members, your cousins, and also in this rate, go share it with your team doc, man, or your pediatrician, whoever it is, man. Let's get it. Until next week.